Bitcoin emergency, Bitcoin warning, gold hits an all-time high, Bitcoin can't keep up. Is this the top for Bitcoin? Are the bulls in for pain? Bear market incoming? Those are just some of the things that you might be seeing or reading or hearing or watching, on YouTube or on X or whatever. And it just seems, again, that every time Bitcoin seems to have these moments, suddenly all the top callers come in. You got guys, I kid you not, calling for $10,000 Bitcoin again, right? Now that gold's hit an all-time high, apparently now Bitcoin is just a piece of crap and we're just going to throw it out to the wind, ignore it, sell all your Bitcoin and crypto right now. I want to talk about that because Bitcoin is in fact down 10%, and if we have a look at this, we are struggling to break above this previous area. As you guys can see right here, this was acting as our support, and now it's been resistance for almost about a week, right? Now, I actually said that Bitcoin could have came down to about 105,000. We didn't get down that low. We only got down to about 107-ish, but we are still having difficulty breaking above this area. And to put it quite bluntly, if Bitcoin does not break above this area, at least break and hold above 112,000 into the end of the week, well, then there could be some signs of an actual warning for Bitcoin. And I want to go into all of that today. I want to let you know how I am seeing this. Is it an opportunity, or should we just take this as a sell signal? Hey guys, it was a great run. We should just get rid of it. We should just sell. I'm going to let you guys know that. By the way, welcome back to Crypto Zombie. Great to see you guys again on the channel. Again, if you are not subscribed, if you do like this content, for all of you that have been out there watching, a little bit of love, a little bit of likes, follow, all that stuff. Like the video below, etc., etc. Yeah, by the way, before we get into it, there was that potential long setup on Meta Signals this morning at around 100 and, excuse me, this wasn't actually this morning, I'm sorry, but this was 2 days ago. It was around 109,000, and the target one is 113. So I am actually not 100% sure. Did we get up to 113? We got just a little bit shy of it. So we do have to keep our eyes on that. By the way, the Meta Signals NFT is going to be going away. If you guys want to get that, I'd highly suggest you check that out below. But this is the issue. So we have this long-term trend line that has pretty much held us down since the top of 2017. And, unfortunately, if we have a look at what we're doing right now, we're struggling to break back above that, right? So that could be bad for Bitcoin. If we actually come over here and we zoom in a bit, we notice that Bitcoin, again, is barely struggling to break out of this area. Now, we've had this blue zone outlined for quite a long time. The reason that we said that there was a chance of having Bitcoin come down to this area is because, as you can see, there was basically no price action at all between the levels of 109 and 112. Oddly enough, that's where we've been spending a lot of this week. And we know that when you are building these bases, sometimes if the price moves a little bit too fast, what happens is you'll pull back and you'll try to fill the area, not necessarily the gap, which, by the way, we do have a gap to go over, but you can also see that it does respect these areas. This 107 right here, perfectly lined up again. We had said it could have gone a little bit farther to 104, 105, but the bigger question is now with this lower high, lower high, lower high, lower low, lower low, lower low, are we looking to put in another lower high, and is this bad for Bitcoin? Because what you could see right here is that we have supplies per, the supply per whales kind of falling off a cliff here, guys. This is showing that there are a lot of Bitcoin whales, or at least some OGs, that have been selling. Now, the thing to keep in mind here is that these are a lot of whales that have been in the game for a long time. You're talking people that have been holding Bitcoin since 2013, 2015. Some of these guys might even be billionaires at this point. I don't know. Maybe they haven't disclosed, their holdings of Bitcoin. So there is the possibility that maybe that's just enough money for them, right? And this is sending a lot of fear throughout the markets. Well, if these OGs, what do they know? But the thing is I don't want to name specifics, but the people that used to move the markets in the way that they used to, they're not the driving forces. They're not the narratives anymore. We were rooting for this type of adoption. We were rooting for the day in which Bitcoin could be bought by every average day, even though you could always technically have bought Bitcoin as a normal person, but you know how this goes with these institutions. They're not going to go on Coinbase. They're not going to go on Binance or Bybit or Femex or something of that nature. They're going to wait for it to be regulated. They're going to see the performance of it, right? And that's why a lot of this has changed. You have David Bailey, by the way, he is Trump's crypto advisor, saying the only reason that we're not at 150K is because of two massive whales. They said that they have slain one, and there's about one halfway to go. So does this mean market manipulation? What does this mean? Well, if you just have a look at the long-term holder binary spending indicator, I'm not going to go into how this necessarily works, but you notice massive trends. And what you notice is that when you have these deep corrections, what does this mean? This means that you're having long-term holders, possibly whales, selling into the rallies, right? Because if you're a smart investor trader, you want to sell into the strength and you want to buy into the weakness. So we have the opportunity to dip much lower. Now, obviously, you can see that this does move up over time, as price, in fact, does move up over time. But what you're looking for with these peaks is basically when you start to see this curve move the other way. And if we zoom in up here, what you'll see is we are still angling downward, right? So generally speaking, in these downwards moves, which are emphasized by these bands, we have the orange and the red, you'll notice that this signals to us that we could be nearing a potential end, a potential top, but without having that full-on reversal, there is really nothing that you can say as far as this being an ultimate top. I mean, just to point out a few things why it's a little bit different, Trump's family Bitcoin mining venture makes NASDAQ debut under ticker ABTC, okay? We have the SEC and CFTC, okay? So U.S. registered exchanges will be able to trade spot Bitcoin and certain cryptocurrencies. This is massive, okay? This is probably the next biggest news since the ETFs, right? Having spot Bitcoin available and cryptos, maybe Ethereum, who knows, to be able to be traded on, who knows, Vanguard, New York Stock Exchange, I don't know, but it opens the floodgates to a lot of possibilities, right? And you can see right here, even though we do have whales selling, we have extremely fast accumulation if you look at the demand from accumulator addresses. So these are addresses of all kinds. These don't have to be OG whales or massive institutions. Just in general, you're seeing the accumulations, right? This is also coinciding, by the way, with the U.S. having more unemployed people than job openings for the first time since April 2021, which is now, in 14 days, we have the FOMC pricing in a 95.6% rate cut. So what is the significance of me bringing all of this up to you right now? The point that I'm trying to make is that you're going to have a lot of these PTSD, OG traders, OG holders that have been in the space for a long time, the 4-year cycle narrative. Now, look, at this point, I can't say the 4-year cycle won't play out, because if it was, well, we're going to know soon. We're going to know in the next couple of months whether or not this is going to play out again and we just go into another 1.5-year bear market. But the one thing that I will tell you right now is that I have never in my life experienced a bull market that had this many people absolutely convinced that the top was in, absolutely convinced that it was over. Generally speaking, this many people are not this correct, okay? Usually when the top is in is when everyone is screaming euphoria, when everyone is screaming we're going to 1 million. That's not happening right now. In fact, I'm hearing more people negative about the price. And I'm not trying to take that contrarian just because, you know, side of things, the contrarian side of things, just simply because everyone else is. But I am just saying that this is not usually how cycles ends. I will just say that. I will also say that there's 30 different indicators that we look at, and 0 of them are firing off anything near overheated. They are, however, suggesting that there could be a cool-off period, but I'll get to that in just a bit. You got guys like Mike McClone from Bloomberg saying that Bitcoin could possibly go down to $10,000. I used to listen to this guy, you know, he clearly, you know, he looks like he's been around the block. He's had some time in the markets. This is the most asinine thing I probably have ever heard. And if you really believe that we're going to go to $10,000, not financial advice, just sell your Bitcoin now, because it's literally these just whiny First timers that get in here, they're scared, they want to make money quick, they don't know what they're doing, they hear something like this. This is ridiculous, guys. Bitcoin has never in its history had a 90+% crash of this magnitude from this price. I don't even think most people can even comprehend the amount of dollars that would take for something like that to happen. Again, could it be moved short term with these whales selling that have been holding it for years? Yes. Could the 4-year cycle narrative end up being a self-fulfilling prophecy? Yes. But I don't believe that the bull market is over. There's a lot of different things we can go over. If you want to be realistic, let's just have a look, okay? These gold bugs are celebrating the fact that gold has outperformed Bitcoin this year. First of all, this is the entire chart of the history of Bitcoin versus gold, okay? First of all, yeah, I mean, you could say we're having a little bit of, I mean, basically in a nutshell, we're just kind of back at the top area here. So, you know, congratulations, gold. You finally caught up to Bitcoin, you know? You want to see an even funnier chart? This one's going to make you laugh. If we switch gold versus Bitcoin, first of all, I don't even know what I'm looking at. This is gold's value in Bitcoin terms. Okay, so we had Bitcoin versus gold. This is gold versus Bitcoin. So let me actually zoom in here. By the way, just look at what I'm zooming into, by the way. So let's see where we are. We're right here. We're right here. So, okay, gold had a nice little rally up here. And, you know, Bitcoin pulled it right back. But now what? We're celebrating a 20% increase from the bottom to the top, 30%. I mean, guys, this is absolute madness. I mean, I'm not against gold or anything like that, but to be like gold had a good year, so Bitcoin's narrative is completely in the toilet when we're literally having institutions come out, accumulate Bitcoin, not even just Bitcoin, Ethereum, treasuries, putting them on balance sheets. The SEC and CFTC saying that they could allow the New York Stock Exchange to have spot exposure, or some of these other investment platforms that never had, you know, access to this. Trump's ABC, whatever, being BTC being listed. I don't know all the names. There's so many that have come out. In fact, there's so many that have come out. I don't even remember them all, right? I've never seen so much bullish news and a 10% dip is freaking people out. It's absolutely insane to see this. Now, let's talk about the reality, because before I get into the chart on this channel, look, we have been massively bullish for the last 2 years. There have been it's hard to not name people. I don't like to point fingers, but you know who you are out there. There have been analysts since the 30K areas calling for these $10,000, $3,000 Bitcoins. No, it hasn't happened yet. And we told you during the ETFs, we said when this launch happens, it's not going to be overnight. The same way that the Genius Act isn't going to, all of a sudden tomorrow, I'm just paying with stable coins at Stop and Shop. That's not going to happen, right? It takes time. But what we're seeing right now, even with the OGs, is they're getting out of the game. Good riddance, go. You did well. They did great. They made millions of dollars. That's awesome. You know who's buying those bags? The institutions, the big players. This is not the same game it used to be. I wish we could come on here every day and do funny little memes and all this stuff like we used to do years ago, but unfortunately it's boring now. But this is what we wanted. This is what we rooted for. And now this is what we get. We get boring, sideways, downwards, whatever, choppy price action, right? Look at this right here. We have a CME futures gap, which, by the way, I don't even know if these things matter anymore, to be totally honest. I don't even know if these CME futures gaps even have as big of effect, because don't forget, these gaps mattered so much because they were the only tools that investors had, were these futures options to trade. Now we have ETFs, we have spot buying, right? We have these treasury companies that pay dividends. So I don't know, maybe we don't go down there. But to close this would be about a $91,000 Bitcoin, which means, yes, my friends, Bitcoin would fall back below $100,000. And then I'm sure Mike McGlone would be, I don't know, celebrating in the street with confetti. And where would that put us? About 26%. Now, let me just put this into perspective. Look, guys, this is the rally from the bottom here, okay? We have had multiple sideways and downward price trends, right? We had Bitcoin hitting 74,000. It came all the way down to 49,000. How many people were saying this was the top? Well, if you weren't there, it was a lot, okay? What was that? A 33% drawdown. How long did that last? How long did that last before price recovered? It lasted 239 days. My goodness. That's like 75% or something of a year. You guys remember this? Wow, that was really freaking boring. You know how many people were so scared to buy in this area? And if you just take the average of that area, we'll just go right in the middle, you know, just kind of ballpark the middle. We'll say that's around, let's say you bought your dollar cost average, you got around 64,000. And what did you miss? Well, you missed a 72% move up to 109, and then you missed the top move of a 96% up to the all-time high, which, by the way, during that rally, that's right, my friends, we had an even more intense drawdown right here. Oh my goodness, look at that sell pressure. It's over. Again, Mike McClone was calling for a 10K Bitcoin. What did Bitcoin do? It did a 32% drawdown, okay? We went from 109 to 74. And then you know what we did, guys? We put in a higher low, we put in a higher high, and we rallied 70% again to the Bitcoin all-time high. So literally, Bitcoin right now being down, what, 9.72%? We didn't even close the CME futures gap. Man, you know, these are the opportunities that people look for to buy. They wish it would go cheaper. They wish they could buy it for less. You have opportunities for this. You know, I mean, we might have a bit of a slow September. I don't know. Like, we need to close pretty much above 115K, or at least minimally 112,000, 112.5 by the end of this Friday, and or else, yeah, we might end up in another one of these boring downward sideways things, and everyone's going to be calling it for another 100 days of downwards, the 4-year cycle. We're all going to die and burn, and Bitcoin's dead. And then you're going to have another 70% rally, and then you're going to feel like an idiot because you listen to guys like Mike McClone. Hate to be picking on the guy, but really a 10K Bitcoin, that's got to be the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. By the way, if you do think we're going to have another 30% crash, I did just want to point out that if you are over on Femex, guys, they have a BTC vault that they just launched. This is currently offering 22.79% APY. This is for VIP exclusive. So you can see you can become a VIP by trading or by doing deposits, etc. Or if you guys want, we have a special trial running with them right now. In the next 2 days, if you sign up using the link below, you don't even have to deposit anything. I think you might have to maybe put 20 bucks in there just to like credit the account. But yeah, you will get VIP. No, you don't even have to do that. You just have to sign up. Literally just sign up and you become a VIP. This makes you eligible. So, you know, I'm not saying, you know, I'm a big proponent of not your keys, not your coins. But if you think we're going to have a 30% drawdown, you can get 22.79% APY. I mean, I don't know how long that's going to last for. And you don't have to lock it up. You can literally take it anytime you want out, and you can trade with it. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer, guys. So there is 2 days left for that. The link is below in the description. I also have something popping up above if you're interested. So, you know, there's always opportunities in these spaces. But getting back to this chart right here, you can see that, oh, here's another thing that a lot of people are pointing out. The inversion on the daily, right? So you're having this EMA Ribbon invert right here, and it's acting as, you know, a bit of resistance. Now, if we look back to previous times this has happened, wow, that was pretty bad right there. We had an inversion, and then look at that. That's where we had that big correction. We've also had, I mean, you could just flip-flop all around. I mean, this is only the daily, but, you know, just to point this out, so this inversion happened, right? Oh my goodness, this is terrible. It became resistance. Bitcoin's down 25% from that point, and as I just showed you, we're up again. Now, again, you look at the smaller time frames, things just get worse and worse, right? But when you zoom out, you look at something like the weekly, what are we seeing? Well, we're actually seeing some beautiful support, right? So if you zoom out, the macro trend is fine. You start going to these lower time frames, and you're having panic attacks. You're thinking we're going to 10K. This is crazy, guys. I mean, even if we look at this massive downtrend, obviously this was a bit of a bull trap right here. Could we be having another bull trap? Sure. But for the most part, with the exclusion, you know, we take out, these are 4-hour candles. So you're looking at basically 2 days, not even 2 days, about a day and a half, right, up here. majority of it was spent in this channel. And what did we do? We saw money flow start to move up, and we had that breakout. So, I mean, hey, like I said, we still have time by the end of this week. I'm just giving you a bit of a warning because, yeah, we have a little bit of a cross again on the daily. This is going to act as resistance for sure. But these are, again, lower time frames. The higher you go, the better it looks. You switch to the weekly, and what you're looking at is something closer to here, right? I mean, imagine after this COVID bubble right here, we had this, we came down about 23%. And I mean, on the daily, what would that have looked like? After that, I gotta go way back. See, now I can't even. This is why I don't even like looking at the lower time frames because they're garbage. I guess the daily's not that low of a time frame. But yeah, I mean, down here, look at this. We were losing it. People were freaking out. We had that inversion as well. And we had that 25%. But then what happened? I mean, I don't have to tell you what happened. You could see what happened. Massive, 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 massive moves every single time. And right now, guys, we haven't even touched the 50 yet. We haven't even touched the 50, I just think it's hilarious. Perfect uptrend. Yeah, you have your little bit of fake outs to the downsides and upsides. If you look at these downside targets, I mean, in order for Bitcoin to really, truly become bearish, you would need something below this area right here, where we had this low in April, and that's around $75,000. So, yeah, I mean, of course, then people would be screaming, well, it's 75,000. I had all this chance to sell. Look, sell now. I don't care. If you want to sell now, sell now. Maybe you could buy back cheaper. I don't know. I just know that a lot of people that try to time these markets and listen to these people and think they know what they're doing and try to, swing in and out and do all this crazy stuff, they usually end up with a lot less Bitcoin than they started with. Also, just to end on some Ethereum news real quick, Ethereum's still struggling to break out against Bitcoin. I do think at some point it is going to have this breakout. That's why you're seeing it up higher today. And even on the lower time frames, this is the daily ribbons for Ethereum, whereas Bitcoin's is inverting. These are holding pretty steady. And if you look down here at the this MACD, it kind of looks like it's doing something like it did right back here, right? Where you're having these moving averages cross come lower and you're sort of moving into the lighter red. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Ethereum probably looks a lot better right now, which is why we said Ethereum could have been a better short-term play. I mean, you have the Ethereum rainbow chart, which really didn't perform, I'm not going to lie, as well as Bitcoin. But even taking away the diminishing returns, if we're going from the red into the orange, into the mid-orange, okay, so we're at the yellow. So let's say Ethereum has like a pretty crappy rally. You're still looking at possibly like a $7,000 Ethereum by the end of the year. So, I mean, that's still a pretty decent play. In my opinion, you have the Ether machine raising $654 million for ETH accumulation ahead of NASDAQ listing. And honestly, the news just goes on and on about this kind of stuff. Tom Lee, he had a presentation that came out. He was explaining how he thinks it could flip Bitcoin. Look, guys, I don't know. But what I will end on this video, maybe this was a bit of a rant. I just didn't feel like covering a lot of news today because, again, it's very frustrating to see calls like this. It's over. It's done. I mean, this is not even close to anything. We had, I believe it was 7 to 8. I believe it was 8. 30 to 40% crashes in 2017, and about 6 of them in the next bull run, the 2020, whatever that one was. I actually lost track of time. My point is, this is like extremely normal for Bitcoin, and yeah, it's a different game right now. You're just playing a game with different players. This is what people wanted. They're not looking for a 2x, just to dump it 90%. That's insane. Also, that would look really bad for guys like BlackRock who have a pretty big ego. I understand that they make the money off of the fees, but I also don't think that they want their investors getting wrecked 90%. Like, hey guys, Larry Fink, he's on TV. Look at this awesome new product. And then he wrecks, or, investors get wrecked 90%. I'm just saying, like, unless there's like this crazy conspiracy and it was all part of the plan, I think that's a little bit ridiculous. So just chill out. Again, if we don't get above around 115, I mean, I think even, let's just say 113 could be good by the end of this week. We might just end up in another one of those boring downward sideways couple of months where maybe September's not that great. Maybe we do have Uptober and maybe this is Rectember. I don't know. Maybe it plays out. Who knows? I just wouldn't want to be betting against it when you have all of this positive demand incoming. And also, not to mention, yes, gold is up, but I think that speaks volumes a lot louder than most people are realizing. I think the fact that you're seeing these international, foreign, whatever, central banks pretty much doubling their exposure to gold. Keep in mind, gold's been around for a long time. They're a lot more comfortable with gold than they are with Bitcoin. But I think the message that that's sending is actually 10 times more positive for Bitcoin. Just give them some time to figure out what it is. Trust me, they will. And when they do, the price is going to be a lot higher than it is today. And I just really hope that people watching aren't going to end up getting wrecked because they were hoping that they could sell now and buy back at 10,000. So that's where I'm going to leave you guys today. If you guys want to learn how to trade, we have Femex tutorial right here. Again, there's 2 days left. Get that VIP if you want. You know, obviously not your keys, not your coins, but if you want that return, the 22%, get the free VIP. The link's below. And you can also check out this right here. But until next time, guys, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.